Jason Gideon and David Rossi represent two major eras in the history of the popular CBS police procedural Criminal Minds. On one hand, there are the first two seasons of the show, in which Mandy Patinkin's Gideon reigned over a team of relative fledgling agents in a hard-boiled crime drama. Patinkin would go on to famously and abruptly abandon Criminal Minds in 2007, claiming its depiction of violence against women to be too extreme and demoralizing, just as pre-production on the third season was to begin. Joe Mantegna's Rossi arrived in Season 3 as part of a surprise cast shakeup to begin a trend that, over the next 12 seasons, eventually relaxed into a less edgy and grim production that began to focus more on the behavioral analysis unit team as a family dynamic.
It's a girl.
The Season 3 premiere aired in September 2007, and the show wrapped after 15 seasons in February 2020. But the debate over the OG cast member's quality versus his replacement has never really ceased. Take a Reddit thread from April 2020, for example, with the heading, "Rossi is better than Gideon." The general concession within that thread, and others over the years, generally agreed with this stance, to varying degrees and qualifications. While that's a circumstantial snippet, the longtime popularity that Rossi's character enjoyed within the show meant he was never replaced either, and that speaks for itself as well. When people talk about why they like Rossi, it's often in terms of what Gideon wasn't, that is, funny, warm, and team-oriented. Comparing them is almost an apples and oranges argument, but the characters are joined by a shared history as former co-workers and founders of the BAU as an institution.
You having fun?
Yes, definitely. I'm definitely having fun.
All that aside, fans tend to appreciate Rossi because he definitely is fun. He hosts dinner parties at his lovely home for his team members, offers his experience and wisdom with a distinct kind of sassy humor, and is wise enough to know when to step back and let the youths do what they do best. Rossi is much more flexible emotionally and professionally than Gideon, who hated cell phones and didn't always get along with others on the team, especially when it was predicated on the idea that Gideon might be wrong or unknowingly biased about something. All that adds up to Rossi being a character that is going to be naturally more appealing to a larger audience. In general, he's just better at being a person interacting with other people than Gideon ever was, as Rossi has explained as much himself within the show. One respondent in that Rossi is better Reddit thread also made this excellent point about why Rossi is so popular. What if the roles were reversed? Like Rossi was in the first 3 seasons and Gideon were in the others. I think more of us would have liked Gideon because he would have had more time to grow and for us to like him. Since Rossi has been in more seasons, he has grown as a character a lot, and he has had bigger and more moments to shine than Gideon. In truth, Rossi's character changed over his first couple seasons on Criminal Minds. At first, he was also pretty standoffish, and more than a little arrogant, often treating his coworkers as lesser-educated hooligans. He didn't evolve into the dad of the BAU overnight, and that's easy to forget over so many years and episodes. The things Rossi is loved for, his gentleness, humility, and real affection for all his younger team members, developed over time. And that was time which Gideon, as a character, was not granted. People have never really stopped missing Gideon's place in Criminal Minds, though a more substantial portion of that interest isn't so much for Gideon himself, so much as the effect he had on his former protege, Dr. Spencer Reed, played by Matthew Gray Gubler. Reed is a fan favorite, and the loss of Gideon in his life defined his character in ebbs and flows over the rest of the entire series. There is even some hope that Patinkin might show up for the series finale, despite having ghosted on the series over a decade earlier. That, of course, never came to be. All that aside, Gideon does have his fans, particularly when it comes to the distinct skills, knowledge, and characterization he brought to the table. These preferences, of course, can be defined mostly by taste. And Gideon's strengths were, in fact, a particular flavor that Criminal Minds let slip away over time, as the show evolved, changed, and found its own stride. That's not a value judgment, it's simply what happened, and opinions vary. In the end, it really depends on if you watched Criminal Minds as a semi-faithful examination of a real law enforcement technique, or if you showed up to watch the BAU and Friends Killer Hour.
We're going to start at the beginning. You eat what you cook, I'll supervise, but we're going to do this all together, just like a family.
Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite TV characters are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.